Welcome to the Jedi Ranger. I'm JohnBerry555, and lately I've been thinking about what would be the best way to mess up Palpatine's grand plan, the Sith's grand plan to get revenge on the Jedi. And well, we're going to take a look at that today. First, of course, let's talk about in The Phantom Menace. Then we're going to talk about the other prequel films. But in The Phantom Menace, the easiest way to mess it up would be for Qui-Gon to survive. Would that stop the plan? Probably not. Order 66, the Separatist movement, all that groundwork had already been laid. But what Qui-Gon's survival would have been to make it much more unlikely that Anakin would be successfully manipulated into becoming a Sith by Palpatine. Because Qui-Gon could offer to Anakin what Obi-Wan couldn't, but Palpatine did. A fatherly figure. Palpatine portrayed himself to Anakin as this kind, elderly, fatherly-like figure that he could look up to. Obi-Wan could never offer that, but Qui-Gon could. And having a positive Jedi role model who could be that positive figure in Anakin's life could fundamentally disrupt the Sith plan to manipulate Anakin to the dark side. Not guaranteed, I will admit, but what I really saw a curveball that probably my interpretation of the source material would have been, Qui-Gon could have prevented Anakin from falling to the dark side. But what about in Attack of the Clones? Honestly, I think the only time it could have been foiled would have been if Obi-Wan took Qui-Gon's warning seriously. Well, not his warning per se, that was a manipulation, an attempted manipulation by Count Dooku on Obi-Wan. It failed, obviously, but what if Obi-Wan's he said that a Sith is in control of the Republic, and tells the Jedi, which he probably did, but let's say they took it seriously and investigated Palpatine, or at least investigated associates of Palpatine. That could have put a huge foil in the plan. Ultimately, I don't think that much foiling could have happened. With the events that we saw, it's highly unlikely, with one exception. There's another event, the attempted assassination of Padme Amidala. What if Jango Fett succeeded in doing that? That would have prevented Anakin and Padme from falling in love and getting married. That might have made it a bit harder to manipulate Anakin later on in Revenge of the Sith. It's an idea. A possible idea. And also, too, though, that could really actually help Palpatine's plan, because Padme, as we see in the Clone Wars, was often a vocal opponent of the war, of prosecuting and continuing the war. So potentially without her voice, Palpatine might have gained more power in the Senate. Again, so it could have gone either way, though politically more successful, but manipulation of Anakin perhaps less successful if Padme had not survived. But let's move on to Revenge of the Sith. And this is where I think things get really interesting. Lots of other people have done what-ifs, doing different things in Revenge of the Sith as points of divergences and all that. It's a very popular one I've seen on YouTube. But I do think it would be the most interesting, because the Sith Grand Plan is already almost to fruition. How could they get messed up? But notice how I've been talking about messed up, not stopped. Yeah, we're messing with Palpatine's plan. And to be fair, if Anakin just took a breath, what if Yoda just said something slightly different? What if Anakin confided in Obi-Wan? Small things here and there could have easily messed up Palpatine's plan, his manipulation of Anakin. Ahsoka. What if Ahsoka defeated Maul just slightly earlier and they returned to Coruscant just slightly earlier? That could have had a huge impact on messing up, because at this point, Maul wants revenge on Sidious. Maul could have blabbed everything he knew to the Jedi in his attempt to get revenge on Palpatine, and that could have thrown a serious wrench in Palpatine's plan. It would have messed it up. Probably not stopped it, but it would have thrown a huge wrench in. Ahsoka showing up could have been just a thing, somebody Anakin could go to confide about his dreams about Padme, someone who's no longer part of the Order, someone who would listen to him. He doesn't want to tell Obi-Wan because, Obi-Wan's on the council. He doesn't tell Yoda the truth either, like the same thing, fear of getting kicked out of the Jedi. Ahsoka is not there, probably knows the truth, let's be real. Everyone knew the truth in my head canon, except for, Mace Windu. That's just my head canon though, we can talk about that some other time. But the point I really do want to convey is that ultimately, it's easy to mess up Palpatine's plan. It's hard to stop his plan. And it's not impossible, but I'm looking at small things to do to mess up, not grand things like fundamentally changing things. No, we're keeping things mostly the same and just doing something to mess up. But Palpatine has other plans. He has his grand plan to destroy the Jedi, but he has his grander plan that we see he tries to fulfill by the time of the sequel trilogy. And well, that gets messed up, so we don't need to explore that. Luke messes up the plan too when you think about it. Anakin does as well, from a certain point of view. All this just to say is that, yeah, you can mess Palpatine's plan up, but he has so many contingencies, so many other options he can go with. I have a feeling that he already had a list of other Jedi he would manipulate to becoming an apprentice if he couldn't have Anakin. Yes, Anakin was his goal, but he already had several Jedi picked out to be Inquisitors. All he has to do is figure out which one will make a good apprentice, and boom, he's got a new apprentice who does not have any of Anakin's baggage. So, yeah, you can mess up Palpatine's plan. You ain't stopping the plan, because that's the way the story is written. But maybe someday I'll do a what if where we actually rewrite the story. But anyhow, those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like and share. Also, consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all my latest content. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you, always.